Hey everyone, welcome back to Teen Paint Night. I am super excited to do our second class tonight, and I hope you guys had a chance to practice during the week, and if not, that's okay, but I hope you're ready to start on our second project. So today we are going to be learning about color mixing. I'm sure you probably know a bit about it from school, but we're going to go into that a little bit more and do a mandala. So what we're going to need today is your mandala sheet. You're going to need something round that you can trace around that's about the same size as these circles. So I have this roll of packing tape, but you could use a can, like a food can, or a different kind of tape or something else round that you can find in your house. Doesn't really matter what. And if you can't find anything, just go ahead and do it by hand. That's okay too. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser. I can't find mine, but I'll go grab an eraser. And you'll need your paint, obviously, and your paintbrush, water, dry rag. I think that's about it. I'll let you know if I think of anything else. So let's go ahead and get started. So for today's project, we are going to be painting a mandala like this. But first we are going to be looking at complementary colors, so we can choose our color scheme. So before we start anything, we are going to tear off a piece of watercolor paper that is big enough to fit the mandala. So I overlapped, oh, you can't quite see. I overlapped about maybe 1 centimeter or 2 on each side, and then I tore off the rest. So I'm gonna be looking at some complementary colors with this leftover little piece of paper, the scrap. So first we're gonna start by getting our paintbrush wet and drop some water into the red, into the yellow, and the blue. And we are going to do the primary colors. Those are the colors you can't, I'm sure you probably know this from school, but these are the colors that you can't get by mixing. So we'll start with doing a dot of yellow, wash your brush, and a dot of red, wash your brush, and a dot of blue. I'm using the dark blue here. So you probably know that the secondary colors are used by mixing 2 of the primary colors together. So we are going to mix blue. Down here we'll do the blue. Wash your brush and grab a bit of red and mix it in. Oh, that's maybe a little bit too much red, but let's add a little more blue to that. Purple and red with yellow to make orange. It's a little bit too red. I'm gonna add a little more yellow into that. There we go, orange and blue. With yellow. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to that to make green. It doesn't look like the best green, but it'll work for our learning purposes. Now we can also mix one of the primary colors with one of the secondary colors to make tertiary colors. So for this one, I'm going to do the blue mixed with, just grab some of that green and mix it in to make kind of like a, ooh, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, like a blue-green. And we'll do purple. That is a really pretty purple, actually. Mixed with the blue makes blue, purple color. And then we'll do the red mixed with purple, makes like a reddy purple. That's a really pretty color too. Oh, I'm just gonna grab my towel. So in between each of these colors, I hope you can hear that I'm rinsing off my brush so we don't contaminate the paint. And then we'll do the orange mixed with red. It makes a reddy orange. And orange mixed with yellow to make a yellow orange. And finally, we'll do the green. That's actually kind of nice green. Mixed with yellow to make a yellow green. So those are all of the colors that, this is the color wheel. So if you split the color wheel like this, I'm gonna get a marker, or I have a pencil here. So if you split the color wheel, these are the warm colors. Oh, I want to make sure this is the right way for you. And these are the cool colors. And you might know this from school, I'm not sure exactly, but the complementary colors are the colors directly across the color wheel from each other. So the red, purple red, its complementary color is this greeny yellow. The blue's complementary color is orange, right across. The red complementary color is green. Oh, hold on. Let me get the pencil out and we'll do this. So green and red are complementary colors. I think I was wrong the first time. So these two are complementary colors. These two are complementary colors. These two. So when you're doing a painting, if you include complementary colors, they, like the name says, they complement each other and they look nice. If you did all your paintings with only warm colors and didn't add any cool colors, there wouldn't be any contrast. So you can use this color wheel that we just made to put contrast into your paintings. And like I said earlier, the cool colors all kind of have the same color tones, the cool tones, and the warm colors all have the warm tones. So for the painting we're doing today, we are going to pick either cool colors or warm colors, and we're going to do a mandala with those colors. We're not going to be using complementary colors right now. We're going to just be using the color tones. So you can choose if you want to do cool colors or warm colors. So for this project, you are going to be needing your mandala paper, and you will need a pencil. I would recommend using a pencil like this, not a mechanical pencil for this part. So, and an eraser. And the big piece of paper that you have, big enough for your mandala. My camera here is a little bit, I'm having a hard time getting my camera far away enough from the paper to see the whole thing, but you can see most of it. So I'm just gonna make it work with that. I am going to choose to use the cool colors on mine. So I'm going to be using the green, blue, and purpley blue in mine. But you can choose to use the reds and oranges or whatever you want. You pick your color scheme and we'll work with that. So professional artists have, well, when you want to use, you're going to try and trace this image onto the watercolor paper. But the way you'd often do it with tracing doesn't work with watercolor paper because it's too thick, you can't see through it. So professional artists have something called graphite paper, which pencil lead is called graphite, and graphite paper is really thin paper that's covered on both sides with a thin layer of graphite, so that when you draw on top of it, draw on the graphite paper, it presses the graphite that's on the bottom of the paper onto the paper and below and transfers the pencil press. However, we don't have any of that. I don't actually ever use that in mine either, because you don't need to. It wasn't in the budget for the library program, and it's not really something I want to spend my money on. So this is, show you what I do for that, to kind of copy. So take your image that you want to transfer, flip it over, and get your pencil, and we are just going to draw a whole bunch of pencil scribbles onto the back of this. So we want it nice and thick so all of our marks will come through. And nice and dark too. You might have to make a few passes. Sure it's all covered. I think it is. Oh. Okay, so now we are going to take our masking tape. Just have to find mine in my pile of art stuff. Okay, so we are going to take our masking tape and put a few little pieces just to hold it in the same place so we don't trace and the paper shifts a little bit and we trace in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna put 4 little pieces. Well, I'll put 2 on the bottom paper so it doesn't shift on the table. You can't really see the bottom of mine, unfortunately, but we'll make do. And then we will try and place the mandala in the middle and then tape that one down too. Oops, see, it's already shifting a little. Come on, you. You just have to be mindful when you take the tape off of your paintings. Sometimes the tape tends to rip the paper a little bit. It's not supposed to because it's masking tape, but it depends on your brand, I guess, too, because some of them are stronger than others. Okay, so now take your pencil. You might need to sharpen it, but mine doesn't need to be sharpened. And you're going to trace all of these circles here. If you want to find an object like a bowl or something you can put upside down that's circular, you can. But if you don't have that, that's okay. We can just trace the circles. I have this tape, this roll of packing tape that's actually the perfect size, so I'm going to use that. Just going to get these extra pieces off. Okay, so I am going to trace with that. So press down nice and hard, and that will transfer the pencil that you wrote on the back of the paper onto the watercolor paper. I'm making a few little mistakes, so I'll just have to erase that on the watercolor paper before we start painting. Come on. So having this circular object really does help, but it's not mandatory. You can just trace freehand if you want to too. Like I said, this just allows it to go a little quicker. Okay, I think I got all my spots, I hope, and I'm going to take a look underneath and see how it looks. If you're not quite done, just pause me and continue when you're finished. So there we go. As you can see, the pencil came through onto the paper. Let's see if I can get you to see this whole thing. The pencil came through onto the paper really nicely. So I'm just gonna go through with my eraser and erase some of the mistakes. And it's not too dark either, which is nice. And there's also some smudges from where I probably put my finger there or something, so I'm gonna erase those too. So I'm not too worried about the mistakes because I'm gonna go through with an eraser after I'm done the painting and erase them. Sometimes you can erase underneath the watercolor, which is kind of cool. And I'm also going to go over it with a Sharpie afterwards, so I'm not too concerned about that. Just fix it up a little. Okay, so now that we have our image transferred to our watercolor paper, we're gonna go ahead and start painting. Like I said, I'm going to be, oh, you won't be able to see my paint palette very well. Maybe if I put it up here, you can kind of see it. Oops, I got some paint on my finger. So you can go ahead and put some water into all of the tones you are using. So I'm using blues and greens and maybe a tiny bit of purple for mine. Okay, so I'm going to color in each section. Some of them are smaller. Mine transfer didn't come off perfectly, so some of my pieces here are bigger and some are smaller, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to color each section in a different color. You can, let's just get started and you'll see what I mean. What the problem is, we don't want the sections to touch each other or they will start to bleed. Unless you want the bleeding look, that's okay too. I am going to paint it. So there's a super thin piece of white in between all my sections so that they don't touch. And then I will fill that white in with a black Sharpie at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. I put water into all my colors, so I'm going to paint each section. You can paint with the paint straight from the pan or mix them together to create different shades. So I'm going to do that, but let's get started. I'm going to do a few with just the colors I have here. So just remember to try and leave a tiny white space in between all of your sections. Unless you don't mind the bleeding. I'm gonna wash off. Let me put this here so you can see when I'm washing off. I'm trying to do my best here, but I obviously don't have a professional setup. I'm using Duplo to hold up my camera and we're just making the best of it. So for this next one, I'm going to mix maybe the green. Oh, can you see that? I hope so. The dark green with a bit of the dark blue to create kind of a bluey green. So remember to use really light brush strokes on the thin areas, and you can use heavier pressure on the thicker areas. So as you can see, I used the same color for this one and this one, but this one is a lot lighter because I used it second. So just by varying the amount of water or paint, you can change the complete tone of your painting. Just want to make sure these colors are coming to the center. So this painting is just kind of like shapes and graphics. Not so much nature, but I'm trying to do a lot of different styles so everyone can find something they are interested in. Oh, I'm gonna need a little bit more water on that one. So as you keep painting, you'll get a sense for how much water you need. It's just kind of a trial and error thing. You don't want your brush to be dripping, but you don't want it to be too dry. Just take some practice. So for this next one, I just took this blue, the light blue that I was using earlier, dipped it in my water and kind of tapped it on the side to get the excess off, and it'll make even a lighter blue with the same paint. So you can see these two blues are the same paint, but they're different strengths. And for this one, I'm going to do a green. Maybe a dark, nice dark green. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of, I'm going to do green and add a tiny bit of the dark blue with it to make a darker green. All right, so now if I'm going to move on to the next layer. But just to make sure that they don't bleed, I am going to skip these sections for now until this dries a bit and do these outer ones. If you don't mind the bleeding, go ahead and just do those ones, or you can leave the white space like I said. But I think I'm just going to avoid those pieces for now and just go a little bit, go do this section here. Ooh, that's a really nice color. I mixed the dark green with the light blue and it made this is really pretty. So if you're doing the warm colors instead of the cool colors like I am, all of the same things will apply. You'll just be using the different, the reds and yellows and oranges instead. I'm running out of paint on my brush, so I just added a little water to my brush, and I'm gonna mix up some of this paint to move over. And you can see the different variations of this color too. In the spots I did first, it's a lot darker, and the spots I did last, it's a lot lighter, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that. But if you don't want it to be like that, you can do like this and get all the paint worked up and spread it out evenly. And if your water starts looking a little murky, just go ahead and grab some new stuff, because we don't want the dirty water to change the colors of our paint. So I'm just kind of randomly picking my colors, but if you want to do like dark in the middle and go lighter out towards the edge, or light in the middle and go dark out towards the edge, yeah, feel free. This is just for fun. So, and practicing the talking about warm and cool colors. Oops. Oops, I'm gonna get my rag and soak up that mistake. So as you can see, I'm leaving a little gap in between my pieces that are still white so they don't bleed. I'm going to mix my light green with a little light blue for the next one. Well, it's kind of the same. Is that what I did before? I thought I mixed the dark green. I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes it's hard to remember. So painting like this is kind of almost like coloring in one of those coloring books. It's kind of relaxing. I like this too because sometimes when you're doing a more detailed painting, you have to concentrate hard, and if you make mistakes, you feel kind of bummed about it, but this is just very calming and relaxing. Oh, and this one, as you can see, like I didn't mix the two colors together really well. I just kind of grabbed both with my paintbrush. And you can see some of the lighter stuff and the darker stuff coming out in the same section, which I think is actually really pretty. So like I said, I'm not really choosing my colors with any reasoning behind it. I'm just picking ones that are a little bit different to put next to each other. But you do whatever feels right to you. So for this one, I think I'll do a little bit of dark blue, and I'm going to clean off my brush so it doesn't contaminate the light green, but add a little bit of light green in there. That's an interesting color. Somehow the dark blue and the light green made like a dark green. That's kind of neat. It's interesting to see the different combinations you can make. And these paints that I got for the class are not the paints that I usually paint with, so it's different for me too. I'm learning new things about these paints too, because this isn't my typical paint. So I'm getting different color combinations that I didn't even know existed. And if you paint outside the lines or you make a mistake, you can just soak it up with your rag or dry off your brush, clean and dry your brush really well, and you can just use a just clean dry brush to soak it up the mistake. Or just paint over it. No big deal, this is just for fun. At least for me, art is just a fun hobby. And it's very relaxing. Okay, so now now I have to decide if I want to let it dry so I don't bleed or just leave the white space like I said. I think since I said the white space technique before, I think I'll do that. I'm just going to try to be really careful and don't use too much water either, or it will make it soggy. Just a really thin white space. hand's a little shaky. I just had a coffee, so that probably wasn't the best idea. Oops. Now I think I'm just going to take some of this green and add water to it for my next section to make a lighter shade. I love that versatility of watercolors. To make a lighter shade, you don't have, oops, my hand is brushing up. To make a lighter shade, you don't have to add white like you might in acrylic painting or whatever. You just have to add water. And then the paint stretches even further when you add water. So this is kind of like a geometric or a mosaic kind of thing, and I think it's looking really cool. I'm super happy with mine. How's yours guys' looking? I'm going to do here, let's see, maybe some blue there, because I have a lot of green. Maybe the dark blue with some water. Make kind of a medium blue. Ooh, I have a lot of water here, probably too much, so that's high possibility of bleeding. So I'm going to dry off my brush and just spread this around instead of adding more paint. So the inside has dried a little bit by now, so there's less risk of bleeding from these middle pieces and more risk from the ones we just did. So that's just something to be mindful of. I'm using watered down light green for this one. Just to make, oh, see? Oh, I'm bleeding. So I'm gonna wash my brush, dry it off really good, and then just suck up that bleed spot. And then maybe just mix that bit of that blue in with the light green. Oops. Oh well, no problem. Oh, it's bleeding again. Sometimes that's kind of fun in the painting. That's not exactly the look I'm going for, but oh well. There, hopefully that. It's still bleeding a little. Oh well. What color next? I'm going to do maybe a dark green here. Yeah, that looks nice. So I hope you guys are finding this painting nice and relaxing. And I don't want to put, I'm trying to not put similar colors right butt up next to each other so that they don't, so that there's some clear distinction between the sections. These two are a little bit too close for my liking, but oh well. I'm gonna do some more of that color over here because I don't have anything like that over here on this side. Oh, I'm bleeding again over here, as you can see. Oops. for the best. Come on, don't bleed. One more section to go here. I'm going to do the light green, but since it's right next to it, I'm going to add a tiny dab of the dark green in there too. Ooh, that's a nice green. And like everything else in painting, color preference is different too. So I think that's a nice green, but that might not be your favorite. So that's the nice thing about being able to choose your own color palette. There, so I'm done that one, and I just have the outside pieces to do. Oops, I took way too much paint. Let's get some of that off of there. Some dark green mixed with the dark blue. So as you can see, like just with the 4 colors that I'm using, I'm not even using purple. I'm just using green, and even though purple is a cool color, I'm not using that. I'm just using the green and the blue. And by mixing the 4, I have 4 different colors, so 2 shades of green, 2 shades of blue. And by mixing those, you can make so many different color combinations. I love it so much. I'm going to take some of this green I just mixed, since there's a little bit of excess here, and water it down a little and do it on this side. Oh, that's really similar to this color here. Maybe I'll add a little bit more something, maybe a little bit more green to it. I don't want similar colors next to each other. And again, I'm trying to be mindful of bleeding and leave a little white space, but it's not always perfect. I'm gonna do the light blue here and water. These bigger sections, obviously you need a little bit more paint than the smaller sections that we did at the beginning. Some dark blue over here. So by doing it one section at a time like this, we're working each section while the paint is still dry. While the paint is still wet. We want to work each section and keep the paint still wet, so each section is uniform, has the same color, and it doesn't dry earlier than, and so if it dries a little bit, and then we keep working on the other, if it dries a bit, if we do this half and it dries, and we try and do this half, there'll be a really harsh line in here, and we don't want that, so we're working each section while it's completely wet. Only 2 more for me. I'm going to do maybe light green and some light blue for this one. Oh, that's pretty. I am a huge fan of this teal aqua color. So pretty. I wish I would have done some more of that. One more for me. so I'm done. Well, you probably can't see me painting this last section. I am done. I'm going to let this dry completely, and then I'm going to erase the pencil and then go over it with Sharpie. If you're happy with the way it is, you don't have to use Sharpie. You feel free to finish it whatever way you want, but I'm going to pause the video, let it dry completely, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, so now it's all dry, and I'm going to take my eraser and erase all the pencil that I can. Oftentimes, if you don't have the pencil too dark, you can erase it right even from underneath the watercolor sometimes, which is kind of cool. But I don't think that should be the case very often here, because I tried really hard not to cover the pencil. So just like you can erase and it won't rub off the watercolor as long as you don't focus on one spot too much. It does take off a little bit of the color, so just be mindful of that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So I've been thinking about it while it has been drying, and I decided to just I just have a finer point marker that I'm gonna use to outline everything, but if you want to use a Sharpie or pen or whatever you want. So you can just go ahead and outline all of these. You can do the circle method like we did earlier to draw it, or you can just go each shape individually. I think I'm just gonna go each shape individually. I'm not certain if that's the right choice, but that's what I'm gonna do. So I have some white spots here that are a little bit thicker than my marker, so I'm not too sure about that. But maybe after you could go in with more paint and touch that up. I'm not too worried about it. But it's up to you and your personal preference. I think that looks looking pretty good. Oops, I went out of the lines a little bit there. Oh well. I think that's the kind of the fun part about art, though. It can be a little bit, doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little bit abstract. I think I'm done this half. I'll have to double check at the end to make sure it's all done, but oops, that one's not exactly great. Oh well, a few mistakes. No big deal. Oh, there's one I missed. So just double check for any spots you missed, but there, mine's done. Here, let me lift up the camera so you can see the whole thing. Here, I'm pretty happy with that, and I hope you guys like yours. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you like your project that we finished. Please let me know how it went, and you can comment in the comments below or send us an email with your painting. I would love, love, love to see everybody's creations. And we'll see you again next week. Don't forget to try and practice if you can, and have a great week.